Welcome, everybody. I'm Instructor Thompson. This is Flashback Perspectives. I have today honor of speaking with Instructor Randy King, and we're going to have him go ahead and do a quick intro on himself. We're very excited to have him today. This is one of the instructors I'm a huge fan of, and the lessons that you're going to be able to take here, I really want you to just dive deep into listening as much as you can. This is one of those very experienced instructors that has so much for us to be able to teach. So, if you will, please, sir, introduction about yourself. Here you are.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody listening. My name is Randy King. I am a Canadian-based personal protection expert. So what I do is I specialize in self-defense, safety, those sort of concepts, but I teach from more of what we call a proactive model. All that means is I focus a lot more on the things that happen before violence happens. We do talk about the during, and then of course we talk about the aftermath of violence as well. Because too many people in the self-defense space only focus on the middle. After the punch is thrown, after you're grabbed, after you're already in too much trouble. But self-defense is holistic. There's a whole bunch of avenues that tie into it. So I like to say that self-defense training is closer to safety training than it is martial training, because the goal of self-defense is no incident happens. I have a podcast as well. I have a book coming out. I'm sure I'll talk about that later, but that's me. I'm Randy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. And yes, so, I sometimes will do these at the end, but if you would just right at the beginning, I know we'll go through it twice. What is your site that people can find you on? And what is your podcast called?
Great. So if you want to find me online, I love my name. Anything Randy King Live, you'll find me. So Randy King Live, Instagram. On TikTok, I'm at Defense Talks with Dad, because I started with my daughter. She bailed, but I'm still keeping the name. And then randykinglive.com is where my website is, where you can hire me. Also, I have free courses on there as well.
That is excellent. Yes, and I can attest, I am a big fan also of the free courses. When this was first coming out, we had talked about this, and I made a quick stitch on it. I have gone in there and started them as well. They are bite-sized, and I think it's perfect, especially for all of us in today's day and age, whether you're a student or a teenager or you're an adult or college, no matter where you are. He's got it set up so that you can pause and it will pick back up wherever you left off. And so you can take it, to where you're sitting in the kitchen and cooking, you're on the road, no matter where you are, you can go ahead and get some of these things. And if you have a little bit of longer time, it's excellent to go through. But I just thought that was genius, to be able to just, because so many people don't get through the whole thing. Because, if it's an hour long, even 20 minutes long, you got a busy life.
Yeah, exactly. And these are like, they're not like most people when they give a free course, it's like 2 modules and like a sales funnel. These are complete courses. One is 4 hours and one is 6 hours. So get comfy, either schedule out or sit down and binge it. However you consume Netflix, you can consume this.
That is awesome. That's so awesome. Can you talk about real quick the one for, because I started the very first one, but there was another one for boundaries, and I don't think that ever gets talked about enough, much less, that should be, huge across self-defense space. You very rarely ever see it. I think I know 2, and you're one of them that actually even goes there. So what about that? What's that about? And what got you started kind of going down that road for people?
Great question. So I have a boundary setting course. And like you said, boundaries are super important. Like we were talking about with my little intro, proactive skills, the things that happen before it turns from conflict to violence, are super important. And one of the things, whether you're talking social violence, so ego-driven, or you're talking predatory violence, somebody's hunting you, there's almost always some kind of interview, some sort of, hey, are you the target that I'm particularly looking for? And if you have a good boundary setting strategy, it eliminates that selection portion. I like to say it in my book, so pretentious, I'm gonna say this so many times, but in my book, I talk about selection and deselection. You cannot control if you're selected. I'm so tired of hearing, oh, what was she wearing BS. That doesn't matter. You can't choose if you're picked. All you can control is if they decide you're not the right target. So boundaries are a very good way to set that. If somebody comes up to you and you have strong, healthy boundaries, and I say healthy because not all boundaries are healthy, but if you have strong, healthy boundaries, the predator/bully is going to pick up on that and maybe choose a different target. So where self-defense happens in the gray area, and what I mean by that is if you're going to get in a fight, you know you're going to get in a fight. That's where your mixed martial arts pops in. That's where your karate kicks in. That's where whatever kicks in. It's the no areas in our brain where I think true self-defense lives. I call it the gray area, right? It's not black or white. It's muddled. Predators gray area, and so do bullies, in order to find weaknesses in your armor. And your armor socially is boundaries. So the reason I came to this, to answer your question instead of just promoting the boundary stuff, is I do this work honestly at the answer. I know it sounds so like basic, but I am in this to help people. I was in advertising and sales. I made way more money doing that. I decided to come into this because I want to help people. That's the purpose of what I do.
Right.
And if you're actually trying to help people, you're not beholden to a master or stuck in style rhetoric, and you're actually looking at how can I help someone be safer, you start to realize the answer isn't only kicking and punching, right? Boundaries, situational awareness is overtalked, but situational awareness, threat assessment, reading body language, and boundary setting are some of the most crucial parts should be some of the most crucial parts of your self-defense strategy, period.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. And I love the structure of that. That is excellent. Very much so excellent. And I love that you have that in the free courses there that people can, because like you said about, people being actually be able to help them, giving the course away for free and being able to have this where people can understand these things, and the knowledge ultimately being the power. You're able to do better when you know how to do better. And, going and seeking these things, I think that's one of the reasons I would love to repost your posts so that people can see this is where you can go get the information that's been vetted, that's proven, that's cross-referenced. Like, a lot of people put up things on the internet, and they and especially like I don't even know that all of them are necessarily in a malevolent way. I think a lot of them that just don't check it sound right, and they're like, I'm just going to go ahead and reiterate and regurgitate the information. But that's not how you get educated. You get educated by knowing these things have been checked. We've confirmed this. And so, that's just so super important. So for your lesson, sir, if you would, please tell the story you were thinking on today about your experience and how this all came to be.
Sure. So my book is called The Timeline of Self-Defense Before, During, and After, because I look at self-defense in that manner. So the story I usually tell is a story of where I got stabbed. I was working here. So I'm Canadian. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm the furthest northern city in the country. There is 1.8 million people here, so it's not a small town. I don't live in an igloo, but we are north. There is oil here, and where there's oil, there is young men making too much, who then reinforce their bad choices and habits with the amount of money they're making. So I have some pretty crazy bouncer stories, but the reason why they're crazy is the environment that I did security in, right? It's this oil town. Joke that I've been stabbed 2.5 times. So I've been stabbed once in the face. That's not the story we're talking about. I got stabbed once, which the story I will tell. They went for the neck initially, ended up in my leg. And then I got stabbed once by a fork. And so I say that's the 0.5, but the marketing guy in me wants to say I got stabbed 6 times, counting each one.
That's right. Okay.
So very simply,
wow.
The abridged version of this the abridged version of this very long story is I was working a bar. It was a Wednesday night. The bar was dead. If you've ever done forced professional work, security, police, any of that sort of stuff, your job is 90 to 95% boring as hell. And then 5%, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So it was Wednesday and I was in the 95% of boring, and I used my time to flirt with waitresses. That's what I did. So I was literally sitting at the front door, flirting with the waitress beside me, and a man came in. Maybe this is US, right? So maybe 145 pounds, maybe 5'6", 5'7", and I'm not a little fella. There's a lot more cuddle muscle on me than I'd like, but I'm not a little guy, right? I'm 6'1" and I'm over 250 pounds, and I've been training a long time. So I'm not the smallest human. Right. So this guy walks in. I'm not really paying attention. It's Wednesday night. I was very much suffering from something called assumed compliance, which is because everybody had been listening to me continuously. I assumed everybody would continue to listen to me. I had a bit of a reputation, but this guy didn't get the memo of how cool I was, so he didn't immediately listen to me for some reason. So I'm talking to the waitress. The guy asked to come in. I say, hey, no ID, no entry. We had just, to date myself, not that the gray in the beard doesn't know how to do that, but to date myself, we had just instituted no ID, no entry. Also, what you need to know is I'm in Alberta, Canada. The drinking age here is 18. So we had to be really careful to make sure minors weren't coming in because, an 18-year-old looks very similar to a 17-year-old.
Right.
So anyways, guy comes in, says, hey, can I get in? I said, do you have ID? He says, no. I said, no, you can't come in. And that was what I thought. I thought that was the end. Randy has spoken. The Avenue knows I'm the king. Let's go. So I go back and flirting with said waitress. Guy says I have to come back in. I don't even turn my head. I say, go. We're done here. Then this is the moment where all of the stuff you read about adrenaline and stress response and SSR and sympathetic nervous system versus parasympathetic nervous system, all that stuff I felt firsthand. And why I like to tell this story is I have both my anecdotal evidence and we had a video. So I could tell you what happened on camera after. And they are very different tales. So all of a sudden I feel something go around my neck. At this time, I'm 22. I'm training 3 to 4 hours a day because I got nothing else going on. I'm not married. I got no kids. I'm training 3 to 4 hours a day and I'm bouncing and fighting every night. This is important to the story. It's not a flex. So guy grabs my throat and I'm like, is this guy grabbing me? And then I feel my head move. This is what I remember. My head moved. Then my head moved again. And I was like, am I being punched? Again, I have been training 3 hours a day and in bar fights all the time. I should know what a punch feels like. But because I was so ambushed in that kind of freeze thing that happens, I couldn't even access that I was being punched. On the third punch I caught on. I was like, okay, 1, 2, wait a minute, 3. Those are punches. So I grabbed the guy and literally all my years of martial arts training went out the window and all that appeared was Randy Strong. So I just bench pressed this dude and threw him and he arced like a catapult and then he slammed into a truck. He hits the ground and he goes kind of around his pants and kind of reaches and then stands up and comes at me with like a wide haymaker overhand, the most classic thing. I put my hands up in a defensive position. Some people say they created this. I didn't know that guy till then. So I put my hands up in a defensive position. I stopped him, and then he was right in my range. And I loved kickboxing and Muay Thai and that sort of stuff, and I wrestle. So I was like, oh, this is Randy. He's like, welcome to the Pain Dome. It's time to go. So I catch the guy, and he tries to punch me all the way down my side, like try to do little rib shots, but I'm controlling the arm, whatever. Then I get him in a half clinch, so like a head and arm, like a 50-50 for the wrestlers out there. And so I grab him, and then I just throw him again because like all my martial arts isn't working, but I am twice this human size. So I whip him at a wall. He slams into the wall, reaches and touches the ground, comes at me again. Goes for like an attack. So I grab him. I'm hitting him again, whatever. Then he grabs my ear, grabs my ear and my shirt. I pick him up and I slam him. This ear almost comes right off. It was because ears come off shockingly easy. He slams the ground. He gets back up, and then it looks like he shoots a double leg at me, like he's gonna wrestle me. I'm like, dude, I've been throwing you around this whole time. What are you doing? I'm all cocky and confident martial artist. So I catch him anyways. I'm wrestling. I'm hitting him. We're pulling. My shirt's off. My ear's bleeding. Then another bouncer comes out, and I mentioned that I'm 6'1" and over 250. I was the little guy on our team. So like a real bouncer comes out, like 6'5", tattoos, bench press, here's your paycheck, here's your steroids kind of fella. Comes out, he's like, what is happening? And then the guy runs away. So I know I told you this is the story where I got stabbed, but I want you to understand that even though there was a knife in play, and I'll tell you what we saw on the camera, I did not know a knife was in play until after the fact. This is one of the things that rocked my world. Because I was training in weapons, I was doing stuff. I'm like, I would know if this is happening, and I didn't. So anyways, long story short, I grossed out some waitresses being like, should I go to the hospital for my ear? Go to the hospital, and I'm limping. My pants are torn. I get there. The nurse recognizes me because I'm there a lot. And she's like, Randy, why are you walking like a gangster? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, you're limping. Anyways, we go in there. Doctor puts a little ruler in my leg, a clear one. I got stabbed 1 inch in and 3 inches across. So let's go to the tape.
Wow.
The guy grabbed me and threw 3 rabbit punches. So already I'm doing better than I thought. Because to me, I thought it took forever. But
Right.
in real time distortion, he
Right.
hits me 3 times, pop, pop, pop. So it looks fine. I go bang, 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 then I throw him. So
Right.
like, okay, ego's fine. I did okay. Guy hits it. When he reached into his pocket, he pulled out the knife. That overhand punch was not an overhand punch. He was trying to stab me right here. But I did not see the knife. I had visual tunneling. I was, all the things that happen during adrenaline. Luck saves me here.
Right.
I put my hands out in a manner that worked. I get control in the 50-50. I isolate the elbow so he can't actually bend.
Right.
Those little punches he was trying to land on me, that was him trying to stab me down the ribs all the way.
Oh, my God.
He then eventually lands in my leg. When I throw him, the knife goes with him. So he stabbed me. I cut myself. I want to be very clear on this. He got the 1 inch in, the 3 inches across. That's for me throwing him into the wall. So he goes against the wall. After he went to the wall, his knife was in front of me. So he wasn't shooting a double leg at me. He was going for his knife that I didn't see. But I read it as shooting a double leg takedown.
Right.
And then I kept him away from it because even though I didn't know it was there, I wasn't letting him do what he wanted to do. And then the other bouncer saved me. So this, if any story tells you why I do what I do, it's this one. I had multiple black belts. I had instructor levels. I had trophies and medals and the whole 9 yards. And a 145-pound drug addict almost killed me on a Wednesday night for $5 an hour.
Everything that is how. Yeah, I love how you said this about the timeline, the whole thing, and your book and all of this. We were talking the podcast. We're looking at the flashback perspective of the beginning, and the middle, and the end, because those perspectives are not the same. Yeah. And you always find out after what you think is going to happen is never the same as what does happen, and then you find out the reality of what happens. And so this, and I think for the audience, you should know, it is literally how anybody who's experienced it can tell you that is how these things occur. And almost every time, I don't think everybody has different versions of it and lessons we can learn from them, but they're not ever that. The way you think is going to happen is not. That's not how it occurs. So I would love to dissect so much of this with you.
Sure.
I have a whole bunch of questions. When he made contact on you, did he penetrate into the neck or anywhere along the side, or all of them, or any of them?
Just the leg. I was very lucky that I got my hands up, like I said, in the 50-50. I had like a half tie clinch here. And then just your standard wrestling 50-50.
Right.
And I control the elbow in 50-50, so I like to drag femurs, or not femurs, what is this? Humeruses out of joints so I can do throws easier, because if you're in your joint, you're safe. If you extend it, you're not. So I was yanking to try to give him a toss. So I had control, so he couldn't do this. Right? Because any weapon draw or any weapon usage other than a firearm, like for the usage, you have to have a 90-degree in your elbow, right? In order to draw it or do whatever. So if you don't let them achieve that 90, and again, this was luck. This wasn't the intent, but lessons afterwards.
Right. Yeah, happens. It's always about the lessons afterwards. 100%.
Yeah. So no, he tried here, tried down my side. He might have poked, like my shirt was ripped right off. He might have got my shirt. I don't know, but the penetration happened in my left thigh.
How stitches and
so surgical glue, because it was like because of the way it cut. Like I was lucky in that the way that I threw him was the direction of the edge, so it was like the blood part ripped through my leg, almost came through on the edge side. So it was a pretty clean slice. That's why I didn't notice it. And also, a thing I forgot to mention in the story, but another thing of adrenaline or stress response in general is your vasoconstriction, right? I didn't start bleeding out of my leg until I was calmly safe at the hospital. My body was taking care of that for me.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Before this event occurred, what was your general worldview? Did you feel safe in the world, or were you already a cautious person?
Great question. I think I've always been a cautious person because where I grew up, right? I had a pretty checkered past. My upbringing wasn't the best. So caution has always been kind of my strategy since I was a child. I did at this point, like I mentioned with the assumed compliance, I did feel pretty safe, right? I was big. I was doing martial arts. I was knocking people out. I was winning. I felt I felt like Batman. I felt pretty invincible. I'm not gonna lie, and then
That's
a little bit of metal changed my whole thought process.
that's yes, sir. That's how
I
that
definitely
works.
thought I had all the I definitely thought I had all the violence questions answered for sure
Right.
until that night.
Yeah. How old were you say?
It's 22 years old.
22. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. I'm invincible stage, and I
Oh yeah.
remember. I remember. Yeah. Yeah.
Brain
Did-
doesn't finish form until you're 25, right? So
Right.
until then, you're pretty much
Right.
a confident idiot.
Yeah. Yes, sir. That's the whole thing. I've read studies that say 20, 25 is baseline for females, and males is 28. I don't know if that's
Oh,
scientifically
I don't
backed or
know.
not, but
I
yeah,
use the
that's what they
joke a
say.
lot that women are 25 to 20, 23 to 25, and men are about 50. So
Yeah.
that's
That's about right on. Yep. Yep.
I don't feel like I matured until I turned 40. So, and I
Right.
didn't do very much even then.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you know what? I often say that, chronological age doesn't particularly mean anything based off of experiences. I know 20-year-olds with Roth IRAs and 50-year-olds who
Yep.
definitely don't have Roth IRAs, and, just dependent. Alrighty, let's see. So, all right, so the environment. Paint a picture of the setting. What were the sounds, the smells, the vibe of the room, the street you were in right before things shifted?
I love that you add smell to this. Not a lot of people talk about that. My first fight ever, the guy stunk so bad of BO, it distracted me so much that I lost. I lost for lots of reasons, but that was one of the many reasons that I lost that encounter in real life. It was familiar. It was the bar that I worked at full time, right? So you get complacent when you're in a familiar spot and you feel invincible. And like I said, I had a bit of a reputation. That guy didn't get the memo, but most did. So I had a lot of people that just I felt very comfortable and very safe. It was a nightclub though, right? So it was loud. There was lights, a smoke machine. You could still smoke in bars back then, again, to date myself, but
Right, right.
so it smelled like, whatever. And my focus was mostly on the waitress, right? She was relatively new. I was flirting with her. So like her perfume sticks out in my head.
Mhm.
How she looked, but it was loud. It was cold out. It's Canada, right?
Mhm.
So it was a
Right.
little chilly. I was wearing a jacket because he grabbed my jacket. Jacket
Mhm.
came off before the fight started. But so yeah, I was wearing
Right.
like a springtime jacket. The floor was tile. I was in a doorway. I don't know if this is visual or
Right.
just audio. So I'll try to explain with my hands and with my words.
Yep.
But it was like I don't mudroom is not the right word, but it kind of works where like there was our main door, then there was like this little lobby, and then
Right.
there was our door coming in. So the main door was at an angle. Then there was like this little dome that we got in so many fights into all the time. And then there was the entrance into the main club. So
Right.
I was sitting at the door on the inside, and then there was the lobby-ish. Lobby is the wrong word too. It's like a mudroom, like a little
Right. Right.
tiny in
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
door.
In
There was
between
the
places.
main door. Then there was the street, and the street had a double wide sidewalk. And then he banged into a pickup truck that was parked on the side of the road. So it was very much bar environment, but the biggest takeaway was, to me, it was familiar and I felt safe, and that was
Right.
one of the mistakes. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. I love that you have so many memories of this, and I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but there's times, and probably I would imagine you would know more about this than I do, an associative of trauma of remembering, because you remember certain details more later, but then there's times that some people don't, and it's like your brain's protecting you, and you're kind of that, to where you don't, unless you go through a therapy and like kind of a regression type of a thing. But I remember a few times where I was thinking about those details more, and more came up in my mind and remembering them later.
Yeah, that's very common. We had a fire in 2019. We lost everything.
Oh no!
And during that investigation, it was crazy because, and I think a lot of people don't know this, when you're talking about like the aftermath of violence, you normally have to report what happened to somebody.
Right.
Whether it's a gang leader, a police officer, grandma at the family reunion because you punched your cousin. Normally there's some kind of reporting structure, right? When you chat about this. And so memory is very interesting because people think that if they don't have a perfect memory, that they're going to be seen as but the opposite.
Right.
Every single investigator is trained to see that you are going to remember stuff as stuff comes out, right? Because your brain, the way they advise police officers on this, and we talk about it in the book, obviously, but the way they advise police officers is 2 full cycles of sleep. So
Right.
2 days of sleep before you write your final report.
Right.
Because your first day, you're processing the immediate. Then the next day after a full sleep cycle, when I say full sleep cycle, I don't mean medicate yourself to sleep. I mean hydrate and go to bed properly, get a full cycle, write a secondary report, and then the third day, you should have all your memories back. So if you are worried about the aftermath of violence, you're worried about being looked at as a liar, they expect you not to remember all the details.
Right.
That's part of the investigation.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. That you mentioned this on the sleep. Is that 2 full sleep cycles, including REM sleep? So you're talking 8 hours.
Yeah, usually 2, well, 7 to 9, whatever your regular sleep schedule is.
Okay.
But you want the 2 full sleep cycles. And we advocate this to all the officers that we train. And this is like a very standard thing. So I like to tell people, if this is what they're telling the police to do,
Right.
you should also do this before you talk to the police, right?
Yeah.
So just be aware that they're advocating 2 sleep cycles. Take your time. Things are going to come back. You're going to misremember, and all of that is okay. That's
Right.
part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, especially with scary things happen like that. A lot of people have these with they're just, have intrinsic worries, but they're concerned about it. Like the one thing I've always noticed is that it's not that, the stories won't change. It's just things get added to. And I've seen
Exactly.
that. It's, this happened and then kind of a thing. It's some of these things are so hard. And I really like that you go into these with all of the different sides. So, and then last one real quick before this section, the red flags. So in hindsight, were there quiet warning signs, a look in someone's eye, a change in the air, your brain noticed, but logic ignored?
Yeah, so this is all errors on my part. I know a lot of instructors don't tell stories like this. They tell the hero version of like, sure, I made a bunch of mistakes, but then I was so cool and I won. That's not this story. I'm alive because of luck and because another bouncer came and the guy decided the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, right?
Right.
So I think there were tons of glaring red flags when the guy aggressively said he wanted to come in, and I was like, get out of here, and I kept flirting, right?
Right.
I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't doing anything. So yeah, I'm sure there was subtle stuff, but I would had to have been acknowledging him to have noticed those things, right?
Absolutely.
I just was like,
Right.
no, beat it. So I was distracted entirely. So the red flag was me. And I like to say this a lot of the time. Sometimes the worst part of your self-defense strategy is self. It's you.
Right.
You're the problem.
Absolutely.
You're not paying attention. You're not de-escalating. You're amping things up, right? Everybody likes to think in self-defense they're the good guy. Everybody's always right. And nobody's ever wrong. That's not people. You can mess up. So be aware of that.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh my God, I hope people are taking notes. This is like a master class on how these things are. It's so much of that. Yes, just the amount of experiences you have. Let me ask you. It's kind of off the regular question. So one of our instructors, a lot of conversations with instructor Strickland is a Kempo instructor. He lives out of New York. So in New York, he's seen a lot of things as well, and. We were talking about that with a gentleman who had almost stabbed me. And I mentioned that my partner at the time screamed out my name, and that's why I didn't get stabbed. And for the first couple of years afterward, because he came up and I saw him walk by. I was cleaning out my trunk of my car. He walked around the building, flanked me, and I saw he had something in his hand. But he was so much smaller than I was that it did not even register. So a similar thing, I'm 6'2", 240. And so at the time, probably 6'2", 210, something like that. It was a long time ago, but I didn't even register him as a threat. And when he had flanked, he got really close. The knife, when it came out, looked like I always say it looked like a katana. It was a little pocket knife, but it looked huge.
But
bigger, he was about there. So I could have kicked him in the face if I shuffled up, but he was just, and he didn't get there. So she screamed out my name. I stood up from cleaning out my trunk. And the whole thing is, I was night shift. It was just before midnight, going to night shift in our apartment complex and in Westminster. It wasn't a great neighborhood. But I thought that he didn't swing because when he got there, that he noticed just how much bigger I was. And then years later, I learned he lost his element of surprise. It had nothing to do with that. And initially, I was thinking this because, being a bigger person, he was under 150 pounds and under 5'6", 5'7". He was significantly smaller. And so when I thought that, And then I did something really stupid. I started screaming at him because he turned and walked away. I started screaming at him and yelling at what his problem was. And then
Try
I
to hook him
remember
back in.
thinking, oh, that was dumb. That was really, really dumb. The scariest part about that, man, he actually walked across into the apartments adjacent and walked into a door that I could see him. But he walked. He didn't run. He didn't say anything. He just
Right.
walked. And so when
Yep.
cops came out, they said, did he swing at you? I said, well, the knife was out and it was right here. And he said, okay, but did he lunge at you, swing at you? And I said, no, ma'am. And she goes, okay, I can't kick that door in unless you tell me that. And if you tell me that, I'm going to put you on the stand. So you need to be sure. And I was like, he didn't lunge. She goes, I appreciate you being honest. We're going to leave cops here so you can go to work. But they went and banged on that door for 10 minutes and of course, he didn't come out. And,
Yeah, of course.
but in your head though, and you know what Instructor Strickland had mentioned was when you are a bigger person and you have this where you are also very capable, you're, a form of a predator to predators. You have that in your mind where you're thinking, like, hey, you could try, but I'm gonna throw you around this room like a rag doll. Was that present at the time?
So, I didn't remember. I didn't know there was a knife present when I was
Right.
making my decisions. So everything was just based off of bar fight stuff, which I was very good at. I've been doing this full time for 2 years.
Right.
So honestly, if I didn't see this, if I didn't get stabbed and had to go to the hospital to get the work to get it fixed, I would have never known there was a knife in that encounter.
Right.
I would have never. It would have just been registered as a bar fight in my head, and it wouldn't have changed where I was going. So I would love to say there was consideration stuff. There wasn't. A guy was trying to get in. I tried to control him, and literally every tactic that I read as an empty hand technique,
right.
not as a weapon retention or a priority or trying to recover it. Right.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That is super scary. And it's, they can come out instantly, and there's so many things on how to just conceal those things. You're not going to be able to see it until you see it.
Yeah, people teach classes on it. There's lots of criminal knife work online courses where people can hide stuff. But when you look at a weapon in a fight, there's a couple of places it shows up, right? Like in your situation, it was a threat display, at least what it ended up as. Hey, I have a knife. I'm not going to stab you. Maybe there's too many people here. I'm going to quietly walk away. You threw a hook out. We talked about, we didn't talk about before the show, where it was conflict communication. We talked about hooks in that. You tried to hook them back. That's very common because you want to be right? And we're treating a predatory or a asocial encounter as a social one. So like, oh, I'm right, even though whatever. So the weapon can be displayed. It could be part of the conversation, right? There's a really sharp or bangy exclamation point of give me this. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's part of it. Then there's the Filipino martial arts saying of a knife is meant to be felt, not seen. So then there's the ambush predator, because humans are ambush predators like cats. So we could go and they could come out with the weapon, not showing it to us, but intending to use it. Then there's my case where the guy thought he was going to get in. He thought he could take me. And then when he started losing, only then did he draw the weapon.
Wow.
Right? So they produce it mid-encounter. Nobody talks about this. Well, not nobody. Very few people chat about the fact that, the best way to talk about use of force is, how do you know you're using the proper amount of force? Well, you are winning. You're winning. That's the proper amount of force. When you're losing, that is not the proper amount of force. You have to go up. This person was losing, so he escalated his force by drawing a tool. He wasn't intending to use it, but he put himself into a situation where it was forced to come out. So these are factors that I don't think people consider about knives. I think that a lot of people assume everything's going to look social, everything's going to be announced. I literally just put up a video on TikTok about this today, where people assume, oh, I know what this is going to look like, and that's where that gray area stuff, that's where the predator is.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We talk about that all the time with the everybody's just get a gun, and I keep telling them, you're assuming you're already drawn. Tooler isn't present. The Tooler rule isn't present. Because you've hit stationary targets. I think the first time I did a simunition course, I sucked. And I thought I was going to be great. I had CCW for years. I'd already been in private security, and I had a really good rate on a paper target stationary on a range. And then I got out there and I was like, oh, so this is a whole different skill set. And then while the target's moving is a different skill set, while you and the target is moving is a different skill. So you get in there and all these little dynamics come in, and So, and we're actually doing one of the things we do is Kali in Filipino martial arts. We were doing a seminar coming up, and we were having that conversation about a knife is a knife everywhere, a firearm,
Yeah.
at the end. And I don't want to be shot or stabbed, but I am almost always more concerned about that factor about the hiding. Most people are walking around with a holster on that's got a suppressor. Like
Right.
there's all these like little
Yeah.
things, and like it's quiet and it's hidden very easily, and you don't even need a big one. You can do a very little one, and
Yeah.
super scary thing. So when you found out afterward on this, is it like a heart sink kind of moment, or were you just like, oh my goodness, I was so lucky? And was that during the watching of the tape?
Yes. No, the doctor's office was the first, wait a minute. And that's why I pulled the tape because
Okay,
our bar was an interesting mix because Edmonton is a lot of people come here because we have an army base and we have a university and there's oil money here, right? So it's a
right,
very transient community.
right,
So our bar was like bikers, university kids, and then like rig workers and urban professionals, like
right,
all these cultures kind of smashing together.
right,
So
right,
with that in mind, we didn't really pull tape very
right,
often because we didn't
right.
want to. We lost a lot of tapes, but we never pulled tape a lot. The owner was
Love that.
very Chinese, and he had a very
Okay,
Chinese accent, and he
right,
kept pretending he didn't know how VHS worked.
right,
Whenever the cops came, it was
right.
pretty great.
I have
Again,
no idea.
this is how old I am. VHS tape,
I love
but
that. I love that.
anyways, so yeah, the first, well, I didn't believe the doctor.
Right.
I'm very cynical. So I was like, no, this guy must have crazy fingernails. And the guy's like,
Mhm.
what kind of fingernails do you think went through your BDUs and your flesh? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what these meth heads are up to. So it wasn't even meth back then. It was bath salts and angel dust. But
Oh
anyways,
my
I
God.
digress on age. But so then when I watched the tape, it was at first, obviously the first thing was like, there's something called reality friction. I talk about it a lot where like your ego hits reality and that friction of it. I use Jake Paul getting his jaw broken as an example in a blog on my website if you want to check it out. Where we talk about reality friction. It's a concept that I think a lot of martial artists need to understand is who you think you are in the gym is not who you will perform as in the real life.
Right.
And so that was my first really bitter. Like I'd lost fights before, but it was humiliating. It wasn't.
Right.
I almost died.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
then later on, like I've seen two of my friends have died in front of me because of knife wounds when I was doing security. One guy got stabbed in the back a bunch of times, his lung collapsed, and one guy got stabbed through the neck and then basically ran himself dead like a deer as he chased the guy. So like knives are very prevalent kind of here in the culture because we're not a gun culture, right? Not a lot of
Right.
guns here.
Right.
No, sorry, not a lot of guns on people. Lots of guns in Alberta,
Right.
just not a lot of guns on you because we can't
Right.
carry them.
Right.
So watching the video was my first real taste of reality friction. Of
Right.
like, oh my God, I was trying to get laid and I almost died. I
Right.
almost died about it. Like
Right.
I was not paying attention. I got too cocky. And honestly, I stopped training in martial arts after that for like 2 years.
Right.
I was like, what's the point of all of this crap? Even though all of that crap is what kept me alive.
Right. Yeah.
My brain didn't see it like that, right? My brain was
Right.
like, I was told, like the thing that I was promised and sold
Right.
was I will become Batman and invincible.
Right.
And that is not what I got. So I stopped.
Right.
And then eventually I got back into it. Actually, Miller's book is one of the things that drew me back in.
Right. That's so awesome. That's
Nobody was talking about that stuff back then. Like the reason I scream, like, it's crazy because like I scream this so loud and I hear a lot of people like, everybody already knows this. I'm like, well, you didn't when I started talking. Let me tell you that right now.
Yep.
Sure, everybody knows it now because we're all screaming it, but
Right.
15 years ago, nobody was talking about adrenalization, at least the way we're talking about it now.
Right. No, absolutely. I haven't heard most of the words that you have said out loud in conversations, except for with a very small group of people and a couple of very important books. And
Right.
yeah, this is why, we're always like, gotta read Miller. And I almost did a video. I almost did a video on one of his books about recent events, and you can probably imagine which one. And I think it's something that people really, we have a thing called the tactical continuum, because to be a, use of force continuum instructor, you have to be certified to be a use of force. But
Right.
how I mirror the same thing of like, listen, this is how they do it. This is how I was trained by my father, who had been a cop, and this is why you want to look at these things, because there's
Yeah.
a lot. And these are professionals. Like when people say professional fighter, I don't think MMA. I think
Right.
military. I think police. I
Sure.
think operators.
Yeah.
Even CIA guys out there, the people who are in the crap, who have to
Yeah.
stay alive at the end of the day, and
Exactly.
that to me, I think makes a bigger difference. All right, so we'll try to get through good chunk of these because I know I could probably just talk to you for hours. All right,
I got
so
time. Keep going.
the shift. And can you describe the
Yeah.
exact second when the social mask fell off and you realized this was a violent reality? And what did that transition feel like physically to you?
So it happened in the aftermath for me. It didn't happen in the encounter, right? Because again, I didn't
Okay,
know this was
right.
lethal. So
So
I
was it
think
doctor's
like
office?
the doctor, no, because I didn't believe the doctor. it was watching the tape over and over and over
Right,
again, being like, "That's a knife. That
right,
guy tried to kill me. That's a
right,
knife.
right.
That guy tried to kill me." Like I've had knives pulled on before. I've had like 18 pulled on me. When we were opening bars, well, just when we were open bars here in Edmonton, there's like I don't know how bouncers work in the U.S. I haven't taught there. I've taught bouncers in 4 countries, none of them in the U.S. But when we do it, we have codes, right? Like code
Right,
1 is a drunk, and code
right,
2 is a
right,
blah.
right,
Code 3, code 5 is normally like a weapons code.
right,
They just called that code Randy. So they're like code Randy front door. And I just dealt with all of the, because that's where my specialization was right
right,
after I got stabbed.
right.
I started focusing on weapons and
Yep,
tools. And
yep,
I got very high up in Filipino martial arts. I'm a Krav Maga instructor, yada, yada,
right,
yada. But I really focused on those things.
right,
So like I've had multiple knives pulled on me. I've been hit with a shovel in the back. I've been dragged by a car. I've been like a pool ball and a sock against my shoulder. Like I got the scars, right, that are
right,
necessary for whatever D&D build I am for a character. So I did all of the things, but like none of that seemed serious. I know that sounds
right,
stupid, but
right,
it just felt like social violence, right? Like,
right,
oh, they're trying to prove a point, I'm trying to prove a point, and
right,
I'm a pretty easygoing guy.
right,
Like I laugh, I'm easygoing, I forgive, I
right,
can't hold a grudge. So then to realize that like all none of that mattered, none of my social armor
right,
mattered. None of my he's a tough guy, he's a nice guy. This guy wanted to kill me because I was an obstacle. I was a piece of meat in his way.
right,
That's where the fundamental shift came, and that's where I really lost sight of martial arts, right? Like,
right,
and I cannot stress, nobody was talking about this in 2002.
right.
No
Yeah,
instructor, even if they were law enforcement, was like,
sure.
"You're going to have this," and so I thought I was weak. I thought I was lesser than. I thought I couldn't actually do the job because nobody else is talking about almost
Right,
pooping their pants.
right,
Nobody else is talking about tunnel vision. So it must be
right,
my deficiency.
right.
Then when I started talking about it, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that happens." I'm like, "What do you mean? Oh yeah, that happens." Like just so casual. Like maybe help a brother out.
Yeah,
Tell me it's
thanks for
gonna go
telling me
wrong.
all that. Right,
Yeah, so that's kind of why my mission is this. Like I'm too old for TikTok, but I'll talk wherever I can in
right,
order to get this message out to people.
right,
Right?
right. That's beautiful. It's one of the most important messages. I think there's there's so much of what you do that is like this hidden level underneath
Yeah.
where everybody's got this commercialization, but
Yep.
where these things meet, because there are instructors that will go through and teach them, but it's not, I don't want to poorly or anything,
Yeah.
of Stephen Miller's, type of thing, or Stephen Oliver, karate, where it's like
Yep.
this is a commercialization of what real violence is,
Right.
because parents and kids, karate is what sells, and parents don't want their children, going through that level of like, so when this guy tries to stab you in the neck and you're looking at your third grader, you're
Yeah.
gonna be like,
Exactly.
what? So, but I think that there, of course, appropriate levels of that in education there, and
Yeah.
that stuff is like it's almost this subculture that it's why we tell everybody you have to be questioning. You've got to be going through and questioning, and your instructor should want the questions because they're either going to give you a good answer
Yep.
or they're not. And that I love your saying with that on the you've been lied to about self defense because
Yeah.
it's not everybody, but I'd say good portion, like a really big portion, has been lied to about like that punch is going to come in and you're going to go and that's
Yep.
what it's going to be. And that knife came out. My first thought was, "Oh, that's a knife."
Yeah.
That was it. That's a knife. I
Yep.
didn't have a.
Interesting. Yeah.
I had a. Huh. that, and then he turned off, and I was like, oh wow, thank God. And then, hey, you made me mad. But none of those
Yep.
things were like talked about in class at all either. So I very much so appreciate that. And I think it's an excellent mission to have.
Thank you.
And just kind of getting it out there in the first, it should be the first 4 months of all martial arts training, all combative training. So this one, I think you'll like this one. And I kind of talked about this one before, the sensory tunnel. So people
Yeah.
often will report auditory exclusion or taxiphagia, which is time slowing down, or your perception of time slowing down for our audience members.
Yeah.
What happens
And
to
memory.
your senses in the heat of the moment?
I love this question because the response is deeply personal and everybody does have a different reaction to it. And I know that's implied in your question, but I really want to point out how
Right.
good of a question that actually is. I'm not just doing this to buy time like the last ones when I said good question. So like that's a really good question because I don't think people understand that like what happens to me does not happen to other people.
Right.
So for me personally, I definitely my time dilation has always been the slow, not the fast.
Right.
There's no benefit to that. I don't know. I haven't actually looked it up. Grossman said in his book on combat that they ran tests with like a drop of doom.
Right.
Grossman's been proven wrong time and time again. So maybe I should relook at that. But from the knowledge that I have right now, there is no benefit of slowing things down or speeding it up. It's just how you perceive stuff. And it's the more training you have, the better this becomes.
Right.
Because your brain knows what to focus on, right?
Right.
So for me, things slow down for sure. It doesn't help me, but they slow down.
Right.
I get the shakiest of legs. My legs shake so bad. So when my vasoconstriction happens, when the blood goes to my major organs
Right.
And muscles, so I can push, pull, and twist better. I don't need to crochet or text. I just need to push off a tiger off of me, right?
Right.
My legs do this, and I hate it because every Western lover thinks that means I'm scared. And honestly, it just means I'm bored and ready to go.
Right.
I remember once I was sitting there, my legs were shaking about to fight this guy, and I wanted to kill him.
Right.
And kill him figuratively. I didn't kill him.
Right.
My legs were shaking. He's like, you scared? I'm like, no, bored. Are we doing this or what? Like, let's go. So I get that one really, really badly.
Oh, that peeved him off.
Audio exclusion. Pardon me?
That must have peeved him off. No,
Oh, yeah,
bored.
he
Come on.
Yeah. Audio exclusion, I get really bad. So I can't hear.
Right.
But there are certain people that go through it.
Right.
There was one of the owners at the bar, for some reason, could go through my audio exclusion. And one of the ladies I dated could. I'm no longer living such a violent life. So I don't know if my wife's voice or daughter's voice goes through.
Right.
I haven't been that angry or aroused at that point. But those two voices went through. My audio exclusion is so bad, I got tasered by a police officer that I know because he was giving me a command to stop beating on somebody.
Right.
And I was losing it. And it was unsafe for him to grab me.
Right.
And he was like, Randy, I'm going to tase you. Randy, I'm going to tase you.
Right.
I didn't hear anything.
No.
I just remember punching and then not being able to punch anymore. I'm like, like that's how enraged.
Right.
But I didn't hear his lawful commands. I
Right.
didn't hear anything.
Right.
So tunnel vision for sure. I get about the softball. Audio exclusion every time. Leg shaking every time. Vasoconstriction for me, because like I mentioned, right, my legs were shaking. That's
Right.
why they weren't bleeding when I went to the doctor.
Right.
Right? Because all the blood was in my upper. I'm a big
body,
upper
yeah.
body guy. So
Right,
all
right.
my upper body.
Right.
Yeah. So that for me, those are the things. I also, after the fire, learned that the memory, the tachyphagia, the memory aspect, they asked me 3 times, did I leave the screen door open, like the sliding door on the balcony open? The first 2 times I said no.
Right.
Then the third time I was like, oh my God, wait, I did, because the fire started on my balcony.
Right.
I forgot I opened it up and I was going to throw water on it.
Right.
And I must have left it open. But again, I didn't have that memory until the third question.
Right.
So those are the things that affect me.
Right.
I guess too, like I get really bad symptoms, like really, really, I don't know why I do what I do. I get the butterflies in the stomach pretty bad too.
Right.
I get a really bad tummy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I very much so appreciate you talk about that. I have so many people who I've had this conversation, especially when something happens and what they will feel bad. They will feel bad. Well, I was shaking. It must be a sign of weakness. I'm like, you're human.
Yeah.
That's
what you're taught,
that's, like, and there's so much of it where, especially in our culture, and one of the main things I do with this, and I've shared Jared's story with you before, for kids and young men. And it's not just that sense of bravado that gets pushed. It's also the you should hide it. You shouldn't talk about your feelings and rub some dirt in it. And there is a
Yep.
time and a place where if I'm under the gun, yeah, I'm going to rub some dirt in it so I can survive. But after that, therapy is huge. Like you have to be able to express these things and get it off
Agreed.
because when they say it's a weight on you, like you will feel physically lighter, at least in
Yeah.
my experience, that you can breathe and exhale. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And therapy is anything, right?
Right.
Therapy is sharing it with somebody else, whether it's you
Right.
around a fire. Me and my daughter, I work a lot with so I'm Canadian, so I'm gonna use different terms than I'm
Sure.
sure your
Right.
listeners used to.
Yeah.
I work a lot with the First Nations, the indigenous here,
Right.
Inuit and Métis. I do a lot
Right.
of work with them here.
It's awesome.
And I got to do a sweat lodge with them. They invited me to
Oh,
a sweat
cool.
lodge. I did a sauna style.
Right.
That's also therapy. They had
Yeah.
music and
Yeah.
we were all sharing and we were sweating. It was
That's
awesome.
amazing.
So like therapy, especially for the tough guys out there, sounds scary.
Right.
Therapy is also just actually seeing your friends,
Right.
having a few beers and talking,
Talking. Right.
right? That's a huge thing. Like we've lost that.
Yeah.
War never used to be 24 hours. Nighttime used
Right.
to shut shit down before,
Right.
or shut,
Right.
sorry if I swear. She used
Yeah.
to shut stuff down
Right.
before night vision and lights, right?
Right.
So we used to sit around a fire and be like, well, that was crazy. Yeah, me
Right.
too. Right. And then
Right.
you'd share, but we don't have
Right.
these circles anymore. Right.
Right.
And so therapy is good. I'm not saying therapy is bad,
Right.
but if therapy is too whatever for you,
Right.
there's lots of ways to express it.
Yes.
Just don't hold it in.
It's just absolutely about opening it up and being able to express yourself. So many men, there's memes going around on TikTok and all these videos of stitched of, it was a young lady actually. She asked, well, who do you call when you're at your lowest? And all of these young men stitched it, and even some older men too. And they said, you guys call somebody? It was all versions of that. I'm a man. I don't call anybody.
Right.
What do you mean? You suck
Yep.
it up. You deal with it. You bottle. And it's super sad because I remember going through that, and then you get to a boiling point and it just explodes and you pour out and you break down. We were talking about that with one of the first ones there was instructor Healed Joshua. He had he crying and shaking uncontrollably after his attack, and he survived. He didn't, but he couldn't understand why. And I was like, I remember just bawling, going, I can't believe this happened. Like,
Yeah.
and he's dead now. And it's still something I with every day, but I find that helping, we're talking about it just helps with that processing of it's all right to do that.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to speak on these things. So I very much so appreciate you going through that. And it's super, super important, I think, really for all people. But, I feel like women just don't have as much of a problem. They will talk to you and open up, and especially if they trust you. With the men, you could have,
And women to other women too.
Right.
Women groups are much more chatty.
Right.
And like it's again, if we use TikTok as the example, I am the worst for it, right?
Sure.
I'll go see my friend. I'll be like, hey, how's it going? Like, well, how's your friend? I'm like, good. She goes, well, how was his divorce? I'm like, he got divorced. She's like, you were with him for 4 hours. You didn't talk about the divorce? I'm like, no, we talked about movies and Dungeons and Dragons,
Right.
and then I went home.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
so men also just don't communicate in that manner.
Right.
We're more about like, what are you doing, not how are you feeling,
Right.
right? Like,
Yep.
oh, you got a promotion at work. Oh, you're
Right.
doing this. Not, oh, how does that make you feel? What a
Right.
weird. If I asked that in front of my group of friends, they would laugh in my face. Oh,
Right.
how am I feeling?
Right.
Right? Like,
Yeah. I think that's a common thing. And, especially, and it's one of the things with getting older too. A lot of times you have this with your social groups, you start to be able to go through that. And one of the things I always like to talk with audience members about, we've talked about it in a couple of interviews, is it's all right to also go look at support groups. There are people out there, because if you don't feel comfortable, humans, we're very social animals. This is why I love Miller and talking about this with the monkey mind, that monkey mind doesn't end on that one note. We are this group that monkey see, monkey do. And so when other people all start opening up, you start to feel more comfortable with it. And then if everybody in the whole room is opened up and you haven't, then you start to be like, okay, well, maybe I should, say something now. And I think that's so important.
I agree. I feel like we can say all the bad stuff we want about the internet. We met each other over the internet. Yay,
Right.
internet.
Right.
But the internet has made it that nobody is actually alone. If you think you're the only person in your town that collects dolls with red shoes. There is a 10,000 Facebook group of people of guys collecting dolls with red shoes, right?
Yeah,
Don't
absolutely.
limit yourself. There are, like you said,
Right.
support groups or reach
Right.
out. Like we're all going through a shared human experience. Somebody's gone through something similar or comparable to what you're going through.
Right.
Talk to them.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I think I love this with that conversation, the series, with you doing these things. There's so many of us out there with that message and trying to help them make them feel better. Because if you experience real violence, you're going to feel a lot of things. And
Yep.
it's going to be a roller coaster. So, all right, we have a few more. I think we've got 6 left. So we're going through, we're still in the middle. So the internal dialogue.
Sure.
What was the very first coherent thought you had when you realized that you were in danger? Was it calculation, prayer, or a command? It could be from the moment you were throwing them around to any of that, I'm in a fight.
My first conscious thought was, like I said, is that a punch? Am I being punched? Like that was literally my first thought.
Right.
And then after that, I make the joke Randy Strong, but I default, I had like 10 years of training, right? But I had been training intensely, like it was my job. Because back then, before I got post-concussion syndrome, which I have, I was planning on being a mixed martial artist. Everybody was. It was proto mixed MMA. It was like UFC. Like the Gracies still owned it. It wasn't even owned by Zuffa and Dana yet, and then by whoever owns it now. But I thought that was my route, right? Like I was good at fighting. I wanted to go that way. All my friends were fighters. That's what I was going to do. So the thing that bothered me the most, like I wish I could tell you, like I had this everything came together, but the reality was all my training left. It fucked right off. It just, sorry, I keep swearing. I don't know. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah, I put warnings up on the front of them there for that. So yes, absolutely, please.
Okay, so I'm going to stick with it. Fucked right off. All my training just left. It left, and all of my years, all of my black belts became two-handed push. Everything became a bench press, right? Like I defaulted to this movement because we talk about gross motor movement and all this stuff, but that's real. That's very real. And especially if you don't get the lead up that you're used to, right? There was no bell. There was no guy squaring off. So you think you're tough? He just came. He ambushed me and came. And so like internally, nothing happened. I'm not a spiritual person. I don't really rely on prayer. That's not a shot at people who do. That's just not where my mind goes. It was mostly like, I don't even think, I'll be honest with you 100%. I was just reacting. I didn't even have it was just like, stop him from punching me, grab him, throw him, put him on the ground. Right. It was just and that's why how I teach the reverse of some people, like, cause I do seminars all around the world, you know that. Right. And so, people teach techniques and then they lead to goals. I teach goals and the techniques feed to that. Right. So people go bottom up, right? This is how to throw a punch. This is how to throw a kick. Here's your footwork. Here's your combination. Now start sparring. Go. I do the reverse. Let's do a pressure test. Let's see what you got. Oh, we have to work this. So your goal is escape, control them, disable them from fighting you, or endure until a better option pops up. Those are the 4 things that can happen in a self-defense encounter. Once you know what your goal is, my goal is escape. That's what selects your techniques, not vice versa. So I go goal first, techniques second. Does that make sense?
That's perfect sense. And thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that methodology. And I love, we mentioned it a few minutes ago, you were talking about that with Roseman. And I like this with all, I will mention on combat often because what I like to do, I like to have, everybody should go get as much information as they possibly can. I have this whole thing with education is not indoctrination, but I want people to decide for what they're like. I have a number of times where I have videos where I have my sidearm on me and they'll ask me like, you're wearing a sidearm in the house. And I'm like, so after the coyote attack, I decided, we're going to go ahead and just have it on. And, so that one wasn't an attack. It was the bobcat attack. It was a coyote that came up the driveway. And what it was so we went to go pick up our daughter, but she goes to the school over there. So all my gear comes off. I rode up to the school completely unarmed. I get back. I got nothing on me and not even a pocket knife. And then the coyote comes up the drive and he is not scared. And our other daughter with us too. She's like 22. And so I was like, girls, you need to get inside right now. But it kept approaching. And so I figured they had time to go out, but if they started to move quickly, it might move too. And so it was like, okay. So I just went head up on it, and we ended up just kind of facing off. And it decided it didn't want to do that, but it wasn't afraid of me. And
Sure.
so, I think when we have these with people, especially if you're a bigger person, it was a kind of a hard lesson to learn is that predators don't care. It is not like they're looking for timing. They're looking for an opening. They will mess you up. And, if you have this in your head of like, well, I'm big and bad, and you will end up hopefully not finding out, but easily could find out how hard it hits the ground when you hit the ground,
Exactly.
That's just
So
being
I
said.
would, I have two things to add to that.
Good.
So first, I want to actually finish answering your question. So the
Okay.
reason I teach that way, goal up to goal down, is because that's what happened to me in that thing. Because your question was like, where was
Right.
my head at? My head was at survive. That was my goal. Get this person on the ground. Get this
Right.
person controlled, which became my kind of my teaching persona.
Right.
The other thing is I love what you said. I have like little catchphrases for kind of everything here, if
Right.
you've noticed. So I like to say simply, social violence asks if I can take you.
Right.
Predatory violence asks how.
Right.
It's not if, it's how. Oh, he's an MMA champ. Let's shoot him from his car. Right? Like, so the armor that you think you have against predators isn't that. Predators aren't trying to lose.
Right.
If you are Mike Tyson in jail, they're going to stab you from behind because the goal is success, not ego, right? And once people understand the goal of social violence is if, hey, can I take him? Hey, will that chick think I'm cool? And then it's how on predatory, it tends to shift their thinking.
1,000%. Yes. Thank you so much. I know that's not mathematically possible, but
yeah, I know what you mean. I don't care.
I
didn't come here to do math.
I think I feel like we have mentioned this a number of times. From what I've seen, at least 99% for me and my worldview on this is that violence, there's always women, drugs, or money connected somehow along the timeline. Like those things are present. And I wouldn't say it's always about them, but it's often including, if not about them, where these things come up. And how like it does this with your, a resource, and that's what you are to them. So they don't care. They're not thinking about a bell. It's not, I'm going to knock you out. That's a really nice car and watch. And I wonder if I distract you for 2 seconds. I need that. And I think a lot of people don't even think about that part where it's tactics, because bad guys use that too. And I'm going to distract you for a second. And my girl there, she's going to slip in and get your car. And my buddy from over here, he's going to take a blackjack upside your head real quick. And we're not going to kill you, but you just lost your car, your watch. It took 2 seconds and goodbye.
Exactly.
And, all of a sudden you get out of the car looking at this guy talking to you. And you're thinking, all right, well, I can whap, and then all of a sudden everything's changed. And you weren't even thinking about the other two guys.
Exactly. It's amazing how fast ego fades when survival is the metric, right?
Indeed. Very well said, sir. All right. So we got the decision. So when you made the choice, when the action, and that split second, did it feel like a conscious plan, or was it purely primal reflex?
Yeah, it was primal reflex. As primal as it gets, it was push, pull, twist. Right. Like that's all I did. Like, yeah, it was primal. And like, it doesn't, like, the word decision is great, but it wasn't even a decision. It was where I ended up, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't choose this. This was chosen for me. So I didn't have a decision to act. I just responded to the attack. So at no point was like, oh, it's go time. It was what is happening. Right. And so it kind of got me through. But yeah, 100% it was primal. And even as I went further in my career and started doing like VIP work, et cetera, that it's still always like, to me, and maybe it's just the deficit of me. Maybe I'm just not that talented, but it always became, what is the goal of this? And then everything filled in outside of it. Yeah.
So I think you're amazingly talented, and I'll tell you why. Right off that, that's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Mr. Stephen Covey. Begin with the end in mind. And I mean, you're obviously always sharpening the saw, but you're, and the way you do that is such a constant. Is here's a problem, back engineer. How do we get to it? And I don't think many people do it that way with martial arts. It's an excellent point in how you do it in the reverse order of what most people do. It's very, very smart.
Well, and thank you, but it's it's the same conclusion anybody would come to if they looked at it the way that I look at it,
Right.
right? Which is violence is high speed problem solving, period.
Right.
It's not, I get to know what's going on. It's an ambush, especially if it's purely self defense.
Right.
The bad guy chooses everything. They choose the
Right.
time, the tactics, the numbers, the weapons. So for me to be like, oh, and if they do A, you do B, it's just disingenuous.
Right.
That's not a shot at what other people are doing.
Right.
I separate martial arts into 4 categories, right? And like, so self defense to me is its own thing.
Right.
But in self defense, you get no prior information. You're just problem solving.
Right.
And you can't solve like you want your whole tool belt on your workbench when you're solving the problem. You don't want to only have a hammer because you just learned leg kicks and you think leg kicks.
Right. Exactly. That's, and it's super common. And you see this, I'm sure, across so many of your comments as well. And the videos, people think that the answer to, A plus B is C. And they're going to do this, and this is what we're going to do. And that works. And it is crazy to me how, because I don't think that most people are, I'm sure you've heard that Dunning-Kruger is something I just quote all the time.
Sure.
Is that society just largely presents with it. But if you ask somebody, in the comments, you are aware of all these other circumstances, right? They'll be like, well, sure, but, this was, you were talking about what I do for the haymaker, which I'm not sure. Have you ever researched that on the haymaker? I know you do a whole bunch of your own research as well on the haymaker. As you're talking about that with the round, right? How common that is, I'm not sure. I know it's demographically specific sometimes, but I was surprised to learn that it was ridiculously common still to this day.
It is, and it always will be, because it's a gross motor movement, right? And again, under stress, you're going to do gross motor movement.
Right.
Everything, it's a big swing. It feels strong.
Right.
It also, it's for humans. It's like the hook/looping punches are almost the ultimate defense tool, human versus human, because of tunnel vision.
Right.
If I'm yelling, you have tunnel vision, you're not going to see this until it's too late. So that hooking motion, I've seen. So I have a friend, I won't use his name here, but he has more titles than a bookstore in Muay Thai. Like this guy, he has so many. I brought him on to bounce with me because I'm like, well, you're a killer. Like you could bounce. He couldn't, because it was a different theater of engagement. And even him, Thai boxing, like if you see his videos, it's all freaking belts. It's amazing. It's not just whatever this stone is, right? It's all belts. He threw a haymaker too. Right? Because under adrenaline, under that stress, if you're not in your position. So yeah, it's common because it makes the most sense. It does the most damage because it's big, right? That's why every single martial arts class, what do they teach first? What's the first attack? Straight punch. Why? Because it beats that haymaker that naturally people throw.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. And it's interesting. I had not thought about that with the gross motor. But you're absolutely right. And speaking of this, you mentioned this before on the tunnel vision. Instructor Duda had a post recently where he was talking about this with so in Parker's Kipple, they have this thing called cover outs, right? Where you drop your head back and you check, and you drop your head back and you check. But also comparatively, we do a lot of work with Jeff Cooper's material.
Cool.
So much of that, and talking about these things with the scan back and forth and how that was serving the purpose of, yes, checking your surroundings, but to get your head out of the tunnel vision. Have you ever seen anything like that in any of the training that you guys do, or anything that you've learned before where it serves a dual purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of stuff like that. I think honestly, my kind of line in the sand here is good self-defense training is good life skills training, period. Right? If you learn how to de-escalate, that also works at work. That also works with your wife. That also works with your kids, right? A lot of people, like I have this reputation of being this very agreeable, reasonable guy with some pretty strong boundaries. That took a lot of work. I was an angry young man who fought and whatever. And now I'm teddy bear shaped and friendly, but back then I wasn't, right? So like, I think there's a lot of this double stuff. And basically, I think to boil it all down, because that's what I do. I boil everything down. So to boil it all down is it's every one of those double things is just keeping you in your human brain.
Right.
Because what pops up in all adrenaline situations is either habit or ritual.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's why we do the gun. This is not the only one, but it is my gun. I
Right.
love it,
Right.
right? All
Right.
that stuff.
Right.
Habit and ritual pattern that is
Right.
ingrained will always come out under stress.
Yep.
When you're moving your eyes, you're getting out of the habit and pattern. You're going
Right.
back into your human brain.
Right.
It's like when I tell people when they're doing de-escalation or boundary setting, I tell people to reiterate, not repeat.
Right.
And why I say that is if you change the sentence, not only are they maybe hearing the word differently,
Right.
because I could say the word a lot and that means something different to you than me.
Right. Yeah.
But also you're using your human critical thinking brain. So you're not going into your monkey parroting of like,
Right.
no, I said.
Right.
You're actually keeping yourself. So
Right.
the best double purpose tools, I think, are the ones that get you out of your natural responses.
Right.
So turning your head instead of hyper focusing.
Right.
Right. I like to do a lot of drills. So I have this pet theory, no science behind it yet, but I have this pet theory that if I teach people to talk and respond during fighting, I
Right.
think their audio exclusion will be less. I really do. So there are
Yeah.
ways that we do this, but everything is just trying to get you back into that.
Right.
Because I'm sure you've read Bruce Seidel's work on heart rate variability, et cetera, et cetera. The science it's okay, but it still works as a model for us to talk about it. Kind of like the triune brain theory isn't real, but it works for language.
Right.
With the heart rate variability, there is an arousal zone that is optimal.
Right.
There is a place where like a fighter wants to be. You want to be warm. You want to be a little adrenalized, right?
Right.
And so all the good double duty drills keep you in that state while keeping your conscious brain focused.
That's awesome. You drills with that too, huh? That is
Oh yeah, I got
love
tons
that.
of drills like that.
I have a whole bunch of them, man. But I love your stuff. The more I learn about your stuff, the more I'm like,
Well, thank you.
how? Yes. All right. So we've got a few more. Let me see if I can count up here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 5 left for you. I apologize. I keep on adding more as we go through, and you'll say something,
That's
and I just
okay.
have another thought, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so good.
No
So
problem.
the
I'm having a good time with this conversation too, so you don't have to worry about me.
oh, that's awesome. I know you said you have a 3:30 your time.
Yeah, but that's still like 40.
Okay.
It's still half an hour away. We're good.
Okay, perfect. All right. The immediate aftermath.
Yes.
Once the threat was gone, what was the first thing your brain tried to solve or rationalize?
Great question. And again, I wish I had a better answer for you. I'm not the tactical guy. The first thing I did after the fight happened, because I didn't think I was stabbed, I didn't think there was a knife there,
Right.
was I went to gross out the waitress by putting my finger through my ear, being like, "Is this gross? Should I go to the hospital?" Because my wife and my daughter will tell you my primary personality trait is I'm kind of a shit. So I like to mess around.
Right.
So honestly, honestly, the situation, it didn't seem fatal to me. So it just seemed like another fight, right? It was just another. So I treated like everything else. Oh, that's over with. Now I'm going to go flirt with the waitress. Got to get a new security shirt because I'm shirtless, right?
Right.
Go downstairs, get a shirt. They yell at me for getting it ripped. I'm like, whatever.
Right.
It's only when my ear, because it was only on 2 points. Glue did this as well. There's only 2 points of contact about as big as your finger. And I could put everything through. So they made me go to the hospital.
Right.
If I was just drinking that night, because back then I drank. So if I was just drinking back then, I probably never would have known I was stabbed.
Right. Yeah.
So the immediate aftermath, I tell people you have to check for injuries because I didn't know there was an injury.
Right.
I do the closest thing I come to a kata is I do an after action kata where I teach people where to look on the timetable, how to check for blood, make sure it's yours or theirs, etc. So I teach this at the end of my class, and after every sparring session or stress test session, they have to check themselves for wounds every time to build that pattern. I have a video. I can send it to you later so you can see it, but it's just basically using your hands to check for injuries. Because again, I'm only telling the story because of luck, and luck is a factor. Right. But there are things like my buddy that died with getting stabbed in the back, we're making fun of him as he died. Because we're like, dude, your cardio sucks. Why can't you breathe? Well, and then dead. Because we didn't know. We didn't check for injuries, and he didn't know.
Right.
So there's just so many little things that I do that I don't think a lot of other places do, which is why I think people find so much value in what I'm doing. That's the thing, right? Is we teach people how to look for injuries. If I would have looked, I would have felt that my leg was slashed. But I was too busy trying to look cool. Right? I just kind of got tuned up by a little guy, and I had to get saved. I was trying to save my reputation, man.
That's right. I love that. I think you're absolutely right. And I was did not expect you to say it. I know of one other person. I have it at the end of like say orange belt. Most people do not ever cover this. And part of what we do is looking at some medical. I can't certify anybody in CPR and AED because I don't have the certification to do it, but I have some medical certifications. And so part of that and what I like to create for the curriculums are, can you do that? I don't have a kata for it, so I'd love to see yours because that's perfect.
Sure.
But it's basically you need to get to a mirror, you need to look at these things, have somebody else check you out because you can feel, but as soon as you can, because that's going to determine, and we talk about that with different people about if you're hit, if you're in a scuffle, a lot of people won't call the police. And I always tell them, listen, if you've been in a fight, you should report it. A crime has happened, and if that person has a brain injury and doesn't go get checked out, and then 2 months later has an aneurysm and they die, and this comes up, and then our video services and all these like little things that there's no way any of that would ever happen. But just because it's a small probability doesn't mean that it can't happen. And so you should always check yourself out. You should always call these things in. You should be doing this not just in accordance with the law, but recognizing the law is based off of what best practices should be looking like. You should get checked out. So you get rocked in the head, they're going to never be able to catch that every time, but they might catch something. And they know what they're looking for.
It's true.
When you have one people this big, one people this big, and all of a sudden they're like, so we need to talk, and you might have a concussion, and, they go through these things with you.
Exactly.
I think that's super important. So that is wonderful that you actually have that in your, were you joking about it being like a kata? Is it like a kata, or you have an actual kata where you?
It is like a kata, so I can go over it really quickly. Sure. So basically, we check the most important areas first. So I say use the front of your hands.
Right.
Then you check your head, look at your hand. Then you check behind your ear and your neck, look at your hand. If there's no blood, right? Then we go core, so we check here, sides. Then I say check your back. If you're bad at yoga, it's fine. Roll your back against the white wall to see if there's anything there. Right. Then legs, then arms, just because of timetable of death.
Right.
Now, if you see something, you see blood, I then tell you to flip your hand.
Right.
And wipe again. If there's more blood, it's your blood. If there's less blood, it's their blood. You're okay.
Right. Wow.
And then continue. And then if you find a place where there's pain or blood, immediately call EMS right now. And that's basically the kata. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Feel free, everybody. That's yours. I don't charge. Steal it. Yes. But I want to point out, you have to put it somewhere in the training because if you don't practice it, it doesn't get done. Right. So for us, after sparring, once you're done sparring, you just do the quick after action kata. Right. And then it's ingrained every time you're done fighting.
Yes.
You're checking yourself.
Yes. That is so important with this. I always like to mention this to people. Your basal ganglia, when you have this motion and you're ingrained, to do something a certain way, if you do this, this can help save your life. I have never heard about it with this in this way. I think it's genius where you wipe it, and if there's less blood, it's there. If there's more blood, and it's it's a generalistic, but I would say that's like about 99% right, probably. Yeah.
Yep.
Because you can have residual blood on things, but you can also have a wound that you just wiped off, and then if you flip, all of a sudden you have a different section, and you think about cutting yourself anywhere, even shaving. Wipe it. Wait a second. And then there you are, and oh my goodness, that some of the things that should be standardized.
I agree.
Like the amount of martial arts schools not going through that, and I it's just so dude. I can't that to people enough. I think we're gonna have to take like multiple clips from these things, and I'm gonna like repost them. So that that kind of information can get out there because that's nobody talks about any of that. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you do that nobody talks about, but I mean, there's a lot of people.
This is something you can add to your classes right now. Whoever's listening, you can add this to your classes right now. I am not litigious. I'm Canadian. Use it. Right? Like, I'm not going to sue you at all.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's amazing. I have some courses and things where we go over de-escalations and stuff, and I have some things for it. Most of the time, and since we had our site relaunch, I did it on the 20th. All of my people, I've told them, so there's this guy. His name's Mr. King. Go see Instructor King. He's got these free courses. You need to go check these things out because my stuff is not that comprehensive. I like to talk about it. I think you should know. But the level that you put into these things, like those people should be doing them. And the fact that they're out there for free means they've got no excuse. You need to be able to start it. It can be on your time. I'm still not done doing them, but the second you mentioned it, I was like, yes, please. Can I, go through? Because especially with a lot of us doing like these with certifications. And I'm like a certification junkie. I love knowledge. I love learning more. And I have a whole bunch of them. So I keep on going back and getting more and trying from this different, and you can get a bunch of them for free. And, like a lot of people like this with rank. And I always tell them, well, belts are awesome, but go do that with rank on a medical certification. And then maybe like a tactical baton, or you go and then you put that up on your wall. Because it's cool to be, your orange belt, your purple belt, and all of those. And you put that up on your wall, but put up next to it some other ones from different organizations that are certifying you how to do stuff. I have one kind of interrupt. I know we've got 23 minutes. I could just keep going. There is.
Sure. I do want to say just real quick, I do believe that After Action Kata is in the aftermath section of the free course online and on my YouTube channel, Randy King Live. I have a bunch of drills, like my escape drill that nobody else does is on there as well.
That's on there?
Again, please,
awesome.
please, steal. I'd rather you rip me off, and I know the information is good, than rip off somebody that sucks. So feel free.
That's hilarious and perfect. Thank you so much for that. Oh my goodness. That seriously, truly, you mentioned that in your comments. Just on the other day about, one of your commenters there had asked, well, who was Mr. Miller? And I was like, so we call him the man. And this is where you're going to go for literature. And then we have Instructor King. And this is the man you're going to go see for the online. You need to know these things. And it's so crazy comprehensive. But I didn't know. I haven't finished the course, so I didn't know that there was drills for that in there. It's fantastic.
I'm pretty sure it's in there, like because you're doing realities of violence. There's realities of violence and realities of boundary setting. Boundary setting is really interesting.
Right.
But I think that's the proto version. I did that in 2020 when the COVID happened.
Right.
So that's the proto version of the book. Like the book is much more comprehensive, much better. But honestly, even if you don't want to spend whatever, $30-$40 on my book, you don't have to. I don't care. That's the information you need. And I cannot stress this enough, especially if you're a traditional martial artist. You don't need to change what you're doing. You just need to add a layer of self-defense thought on top of it. That's it.
This is why you have to cross-train. This is exactly what and this is who I'm saying we should be having you guys go to. My black belt, they made me have 5 books as required reading. I had to do a thesis. I had to do a written test, a oral test, and I had to do a multiple choice exam. Again, it was family-owned, parents and law enforcement. So they were like, you're going to know some things. And it was crazy hard. I was very thankful they let me do it on a separate day than the actual 8-hour black belt physical test. But because I didn't know that punch drunk was a real thing until I was 21 when I got my adult black. And wow, it was a real thing. You get punch drunk. But that stuff in there. And so Miller's Meditations on Violence is one of our required readings. I have a couple of his other books there, and I've kind of. So when we did the relaunch, I was thinking about making. It's hard to pick, but I think I'm definitely going to have to get your book because so much of what you do, and I may end up making that required reading for their black belt as well because there is. I wouldn't say there's gaps because you have to go read all of Miller to find all of these different things, but so much of what you do puts it where there's things that aren't included, and you've got them covered. So between these people, they're covering your bases here. All right, we got 20 minutes. I'm going to try to get through these last few. We've got the evolution. How has your threat detection system changed when you walk into a room now? And what is the first thing that you see that most people miss?
So I don't want to keep being contrary here, but I do this a little bit differently as well. Right. I do situational awareness through story, not through tactical. So I look kind of and I ask who, what, when, where, why, how of the room. Right. It's in the book, but it's so I'll look around and be like, okay, So I notice, because I was a bouncer, I notice things like that aren't normally included on a lot
Right.
of threat assessment, like hazards, for example, like a wet floor sign or a tripping hazard because of years of trying to drag drunks out of bars. Also, I like to treat drunks like pinballs and bounce them off of everything to get points. I think that was my move.
You
Kept
know
them
what?
discombobulated.
You just say when you're a bigger person, that really is pretty simple, and they
Yeah.
have heavyweight and heavyweight, super heavyweight for a reason. I can so
Yes.
see you just grabbing somebody and being like, "Bam, you're
Yeah.
going
Bing,
here
bing,
now."
bing, 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 bing. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. And so then, anyway, so yeah, so like, I definitely went through, and I'm not trying to like make fun of anybody who's in this stage right now,
Sure.
but I feel like there's a maturation of situational awareness. It
Yeah.
starts with like being a kid, and you're like, then it's like tactical. I have to face the door. I have to know where the exits are. I have to, right? And like, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of
Right.
people just kind of live there, but
Right.
there's another maturation of it, which
Right.
is I can sit wherever I want because the
Right.
people I'm with are watching my six, right? So I don't need to be the guy who's like against the wall and like looking at everything when,
Right.
because I'm very blessed. Miller is my mentor.
Right.
I literally slept this close in a car, like we were making out for a 2-month trip around the US. So
Right.
we're tight. We're very,
Right.
very tight. But if he's with me, I don't need to face the goddamn door.
Right.
He'll tell me if something's
Right.
happening, right?
Right. Right.
So I like, obviously reflections are important and yada yada yada, but
Yeah.
there's nothing better than just a vibe check.
Right.
Walk in, how does this place feel? And just trust it.
Right.
Right? Too many people say trust your gut. I'd like to point out that guts can be wrong. If
Right.
you grew up in a bad situation, your gut intuition is tuned much differently than a normal person.
Yep.
But trust those instincts. Like,
Right.
if you walk in, you see somebody's being weird, go get coffee somewhere else. You don't need to be there. If I have to be in a situation,
Right.
I too much situational awareness and too much threat assessment is based off of like looking for threats.
Right.
I like to say stay curious, because if you're acting like a 5-year-old and looking at all the cool stuff,
Right.
you're also going to notice the bad stuff.
Right.
But if you're only looking for bad stuff, you're going to burn out mentally.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
just be curious. So when I walk in, I look at everything like, what's that poster doing there? Who is this band?
Right.
I absorb it. And that's my situational awareness, is just be curious. You
Right.
don't need to be tactical. You
Yeah.
don't need to stress yourself out. Trust me, if you're curious, you walk in, you go, hey, why does that guy in the trench coat look weird over there? You're going to notice that, as well as the new coffee special, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
don't spend your time burning out in whatever condition, orange or whatever. I
Right.
don't know. I don't subscribe to Cooper's color codes, not for any
Right.
reason, but like,
Right.
don't spend a lot of time in there
Right.
unless you have to.
Right.
Just go and just look at the place. Keep your head out of your phone for 45 seconds.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Anytime you're transitioning, I'm not saying don't use your phone. For
Right.
a guy on TikTok as much
Right.
as me, that'd be hypocritical.
Right.
But what I am saying is, when you're transitioning, have it in your pocket. From your door to your car, in
Right.
your pocket.
Yeah.
Right? At the bus stop, in your pocket, on the bus, in between stops, you can look at it. At a stop, look around again. Just stay
Right.
curious. So
That's
I think those are the phase that people go through. It's like,
right.
really kind of unaware, then they overcorrect the tactical. I must be Jason Bourne
Right.
and memorize every license plate. Never once has memorizing a license plate ever helped me in my life.
Right. Nope.
Then after you get past that, I have to face the door and this and that. Then when you get to curiosity and trust, I have 3 pillars of self-defense.
Right.
Personal value. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to defend yourself. Number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is healthy boundaries. If you can't express how you want people to interact with you, you can't defend yourself. And
Right.
then number 3 is community.
Right.
You should be surrounded by good humans. Are alive because we work in groups.
Right.
So your people should also be part of your safety strategy.
Yep. 100%. That's so important. I love that. Talked about that with my partner before too.
Yeah.
She'll be sitting. She can face the door. I can face the door. I don't care. We have one of the things we did was a family code.
Yeah.
So we just have code words, and
Yeah, perfect.
if the
Exactly.
code word comes out, then this is the action we follow, and that's it. It can be very, very easy. I love that you have that there with that whole stage. So, all right, we've got the evolution and the gift of fear.
Sure.
So, what is something you understand about human nature now, the dark or the light, that you never could have understood without this experience?
Without the knifing experience from the story. I think capability. I think it's very easy. I live in a very peaceful country, despite what people are saying. I live in a
Right,
very peaceful country. There's not a lot of stuff happening.
right,
Most of the trouble you get into here, you cause on your own, right? You're the problem, your self-defense strategy.
right,
But I think like just you can never account for intent. We
right,
don't ever know what the intent is of the person. I don't know why that guy was willing to kill me to get in a bar on Wednesday night, but he did
right,
it for a reason,
right.
right? There
Yeah,
was something that like the bar was dead. He could have went anywhere else. There
right,
was a reason. I don't know what it is. So you
right,
can't you can't bring your rule book to these games,
right,
right? You don't know what their intent is. You should know what your goal is,
right,
but just because your rules exist doesn't mean theirs do, right? I
right.
was friendly, I was popular, people liked me, I was really good at what I was doing, and I almost died on a Wednesday night
Right.
because I did not know the level of intent that person had.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. I just did.
Yeah.
We're reading from two different books and we're thinking that we're on the same page. We're not even in
Exactly,
the same
exactly. Yeah.
section. And that's just so huge. All right. So the last one from our list there,
Sure.
all these years later, has your perspective changed? I know a good amount of these we've kind of already
Yeah, sure
covering.
has.
But all these years later, has your perspective changed about any of the things from the occurrence then? And have you changed anything about what you train now versus then for yourself or for your students?
Yeah, I guess despite all that, I kind of answered that a little bit, but
Yeah,
I think I've had a lot of aha moments. It wasn't just that
right,
stabbing,
right,
right? Like I think, I don't know if you saw it, but I just put up like a origin story on my TikTok. Again, not tough guy stuff. It's just the truth.
right,
I was a
right,
dork and I wanted to learn how to fight. Um, and I think that like the thing that changed the most is self-defense is very much about self, right? It's in the word. So you take care of yourself, and then that's fine until you become an instructor. And then you got to worry about all the types of self, right? Children and women and men and boys and teens and culture and whatever. So I think the biggest switch I've had is making sure I'm looking through other people's lenses, not just my own. Right? What is your reality? The way that I built my timeline of self-defense product, the model, the courses, the instructor course that's coming out eventually. I'll be certifying instructors at some point. All of that,
please,
yeah, no problem. Of
yes,
course,
please,
I'll tell you.
yes, please,
All of that stuff comes from the fact that I'm blessed to have one of the largest client bases I think any instructor ever worked with. I
right.
work with people who have been, I work with halfway houses for women who have been abused.
Oh,
I
that's
work with First
amazing.
Nations. I work with SWAT teams, as we talked about earlier. I
Right,
work with military, I work with Fortune 500 companies. I work with athletes, like
right,
everybody. Like I just have such a crazy base, and knowing all of those things is very important because you don't know who you're going to be talking to, and you
right,
don't want to assume that your self is their self,
right.
right? I remember the
Absolutely.
first women's self-defense seminar I ever ran was basically how to win a bar fight, and they were like, "This sucked," and I'm like, "You're right. I will do this again for free."
Mhm.
Then I learned about this stuff, right?
Right,
So be aware. So that's been the biggest evolution. Is yeah, sure. Then I learned knife defense, and then I learned how to do better stuff.
right,
But my daughter didn't learn that. My wife
right,
didn't learn that. What can help
right,
them?
right,
So the evolution for me was remembering not everybody's a 6'1", 200 and
right,
too many
right,
pound man,
right.
right? Everybody is
Yeah,
different stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone's totally different there, and I think that that's so important. I love that you don't cover all the bases; you cover the whole stadium, and
Yeah, that's the
like
goal. Yeah.
you got all of these things coming across, and it's so important that you have it's whether I don't care really where people go to learn as long as they don't just stop their journey. I think they should
Yeah.
go through and I know some people ask, well, why would you, recommend this person? I'm like, well, because they have something to teach and we can all learn. And
Yes,
there's a second
exactly.
that you get to this point where you're like, well, they're horrible. And I'm like, okay. And you sat with them for a while and came to that conclusion after, right? And you got
Yeah.
all that information and you went over and you found what would work for you because what works for one person won't work for the other necessarily. You
Exactly
have a
right.
lot of things that are going to be different based on you, your life, who you are, all these things that come together. And thank you so much for this. This was
Of course.
fantastic to learn from, your lesson here, your story with this. I think, I already think the world of you, man. I think that so many
Thank
people
you, sir.
really need to be going through and trying to collect as much information as they can
Yeah.
and deciding what works for them I think especially those bite-sized courses, when you have the knowledge and you can start to apply this yourself, it's where it really has to start. I always like to say the martial arts shouldn't be starting, in stretching and block and, chop and punch. It should be starting, let's sit down and have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
This is what legalities look like. This is what morals and ethics look like. And before we go jump on the mat, I want you to know all of these things. Now we can talk about the middle and, start from the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think, and there's so many other voices, not just mine out there. There's tons of people. Go listen to them, go talk to them, because your self-defense strategy is yours and yours alone. Right. So I don't know what your life looks like. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know any of that stuff. So you're the one that has to make the ultimate decision for this.
Right. Yeah. That's so well said. There are so many things we could just go on for hours and hours with you. So the website is randykinglive.com.
Yep, randykinglive.com. All my social media is that, except for TikTok, which is at Defense Talks with Dad. And don't forget, we are doing a TikTok live next week, right?
Yes, sir. We'll do them next week. Are we doing the same time?
Yeah, we'll get it all figured out for sure. But let's to make sure everybody knows we're going to be doing this. We're answering questions, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. It's going to be, I think we have, I have to edit out different sections of it to kind of make the teasers, and we put it on the YouTube. And I am still struggling with the Spotify. I have the whole thing with the channel. I had a whole bunch of people who had pre-saved the channel name and everything. And then I'm getting the audio up on there, and it's not like loading right, but it actually I read a thing there that Sensei Cole has his, and it lets you have video now on there too. And I was like, really? Well, that's perfect from his thing. That's what he was showing, and then I was like, great, so let's do it as a vlog and a podcast. And there is a lot of lessons that I really want people to be able to see and hear, because if you live this vicariously, I don't need to get stabbed in the leg to have learned everything that you just talked about. And I appreciate you getting stabbed in the leg for me. I know that sounds weird, but
no, I get it.
It's vicarious is the best way, I think.
Yes, that's the way I would recommend for sure. Because you don't have to do physiotherapy after, so it's much better.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. Yes, we will announce this next week. I'm going through a whole bunch of things with editing, so I'm going to get it all edited out before next week. I'm doing lots of that with different episodes still, but we will get it all up. This will be on YouTube. This will be on Spotify. Everybody, please go check out randykinglive.com. We keep mentioning this about the 2 free courses. I'm already going through them myself. I'm telling you, they are very, very good. You really want to go through this, and especially if you enjoyed this interview here, Mr. King, please go check out his work, his product, and I very much want to be updated this on your timeline of self-defense, the courses and the instruction. If you're an instructor, there's a lot of instructors that we all kind of cross-follow each other. Go get a certification from Instructor King. You absolutely should go do it. You cannot know enough in any one of these sections. And this is why we do collabs, this is why we do seminars.
Yep.
Always can learn more, and then your students get to benefit more from that. We all get to benefit more from that.
Exactly. And hopefully, I don't know where your listeners are, but I'm in Europe early this year. I'm in Australia mid this year. And I want to come back to your lovely country, but the border is an issue right now. So I'm going to give her a minute. But I do plan on coming down there. So if you guys want me to come down to your studio or whatever, teach this, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, just shoot me a direct message. You do actually talk to me. People are always shocked when I respond. They're like, is this actually Randy? I'm like, I ain't that rich. I teach martial arts. I'm a good assistant. So
isn't that the truth? Yes. Especially for all the instructors watching this, you can have Mr. King come out. We often have this with guest seminars. It's been a thing since forever. We're doing it, the 80s and 90s. I remember all of these, lots of different cross sections. So you can have Instructor King come out and go through his material. Everybody should be hearing these things. Everybody should be following him there. And it's now the timeline of self-defense.
Timeline of self-defense.
Timeline of self-defense. And please, the book, we're going to get a link. So you guys can have it on there. Is it on Amazon?
Yeah, it is. But we'll get people to buy it through me. Apparently, I get nothing from Amazon. So
you don't get from Amazon? Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah. So we'll have you go to the site to get the book. Definitely go check it out. There's a reason why we say always go read everything that Miller ever wrote. Please go read what Mr. King has written. And going to delve much deeper than what we've just gone through today. Is a taste of all of these things that we can learn. So I want to thank you so much for your time, sir. I very much so appreciate you.
Thank
We
you.
will be talking here soon, and